Greetings Acolytes, welcome back to the channel, and we're here for my reaction and review for the first two episodes of The Acolyte. The episodes being titled Lost and Found and Revenge and Justice, showing the dichotomy between the light and the dark side of the Force and the relationship between the Jedi and Sith that is forming. The Acolyte takes place 100 years before the events of the Phantom Menace, and as it puts it, the rise of the Empire. Formerly set in the High Republic era of Star Wars, one of the biggest concerns I had going into the series is how would this illustrate the time period and this brand new era, as well as how the Jedi operate and how this is different from what we see of the Jedi from the Republic Classic era. From what we've gotten of the High Republic series, we know that the Jedi operate much differently. They act more like a conventional knight would, traveling from system to system, and some even staying in one system for a long period of time as a protector. In this era, this offered a lot of strengths for the Jedi, as they were able to help out the more common people in the galaxy, and were far more spread out, allowing themselves to control and stop more issues on a larger scale. However, it left the Order itself largely unconnected, and separate from the Jedi that operated on Coruscant, as we see here with a brand new Jedi temple, and various bases of which the Jedi operate out of across the stars. In many ways, the High Republic Jedi are actually considered superior to the more common Jedi that we're familiar with, more connected to the people and the galaxy that surrounded them, making them more empathetic. But it was also far more difficult for them to track, something that we've seen with the first two episodes of The Acolyte and the appearance of May, the darker half of a sister duo between May and Osha. Osha, who was formerly a Jedi Padawan, apprenticed to Jedi Master Soul, but that apparently left the Jedi Order after she suffered from attachment issues. Interestingly, joining the Jedi Order at the age of 8 years old, the same age that a young Anakin did. In fact, Osha and Anakin have a lot in common. They both have strong connections to their family and have lost those that are very important to them. This has also led them down their respective paths, but it appears as if Osha has made this jump and has decided to leave the Jedi Order, where Anakin felt the burden as the Jedi chosen one to stick with it. Nonetheless though, both characters have formed strong familial bonds that the Jedi deem as very dangerous, something that we've seen in The Acolyte and something that we saw across the prequel trilogy. Speaking of the prequel trilogy, The Acolyte is in most similar to tone to the prequels as well as aesthetically, which makes sense as chronologically they're only around 100 years removed from the events of the Phantom Menace. Getting a look at Coruscant with the less developed skyline is certainly a big treat. And speaking of which, the effects in this overall episode are absolutely phenomenal. No surprise as we heard reports that The Acolyte was around twice the budget of that of the Kenobi series. Everything here looks absolutely astounding. Far better than they did in Obi-Wan. And this by far is one of the best looking Disney Plus shows, especially Star Wars related, that we've ever seen. There's a lot to like in the first two episodes with The Acolyte. I also appreciated the look at more hand-to-hand combat without the use of lightsabers, and showing just how powerful a force wielder is even without the lightsaber. I also love the little hints and lore building as The Acolyte, and something that surprised me is that it's surprisingly accurate to the lore, calling upon deeper lore such as the Barash Vow, and even quoting lines from the Sith Code. One of the major concerns for individuals about The Acolyte was that it wouldn't feel like Star Wars and would feel like a completely separate universe. However, after now having seen the first two episodes, that is not the case. The Acolyte's lore very much falls in line with Star Wars, and even goes a little bit deeper than I was expecting, again with the Barash Vow being mentioned in the second episode, and I believe this will be a key plot point moving forward. The Barash Vow was a vow adopted by Jedi who most often believed that they had made a massive mistake. By a Jedi taking the Barash Vow, they removed themselves from the inner workings of the Order, and instead focused solely on reconnecting with the Force itself. The first time we heard of the Barash Vow was in the Darth Vader comic book series, which followed Vader's rise to power immediately after Revenge of the Sith. What's very interesting is that Darth Sidious sent Vader on a mission to kill a Jedi and to claim their lightsaber. Sidious directly sent Vader after Karak and Fala, a Jedi who had taken the Barash Vow. And now we see here in The Acolyte that this is likely a tradition of the ancient Sith, sending acolytes and Sith initiates to claim the lightsaber of a Jedi that has taken upon themselves the Barash Vow. Many times Jedi that have taken the Barash Vow are considered to be more dangerous because of the fact that they could be unhinged, which led them to take the vow in the first place. The overarching plot of The Acolyte though, to its core, is of course a murder mystery. with the Jedi Master Undara being murdered by May in the first few opening minutes, and Carrie-Anne Moss unfortunately making a great debut and an exit all at once. The best parts of the Acolytes is the little bits of lore building that we get. The Sith in this era are very much still in hiding, and we get a look at their ultimate plan, the individual known as the Stranger or the Master, who many believe to be the Sith Lord, is teaching May in various riddles and comments made about the Jedi. Most notably, the Jedi live in a dream they believe everyone shares. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel or laser are no threat to them, but an Acolyte kills without a weapon. An Acolyte kills the dream. What exactly does this mean? Well, it spells out exactly how the Sith rose to power in the Republic Classic era. The Sith and Palpatine did not dismantle the Jedi because of their superior skill on the battlefield and with the lightsaber. Palpatine didn't even destroy the Jedi and the Republic through a grand war. Instead, he destroyed the dream. That dream being what the Jedi enforce upon the galaxy. They enforce peace. The Sith desire power, and they desire to rule. The Jedi ironically have that power, even though that is not their pursuit. And the Sith Master wisely says here that they must not destroy the Jedi with a weapon, but they must instead destroy what the Jedi represent. Destroy that they mean the good of the galaxy and a peaceful protector. Instead, they must be transformed into the enemy. They must not be trusted. Of course, the Acolyte being said 100 years before the rise of Palpatine is a great place to start this story. Despite it being a century removed, it's integral to the plot and the rise of the Sith, which I believe the Acolyte is doing a fairly good but a not perfect job on building upon. One of the biggest shocks and minor complaints that I have about the Acolyte so far is that this was pitched as a Sith-led series. Instead though, we find ourselves with the Jedi very much as the main protagonists and the Sith viewed as the antagonists. While of course it's hard to judge because we're only 2 episodes in, I hope that this will eventually flip the script and will pose the Jedi as far more nefarious than many of us originally anticipated. I do believe that this is what is occurring with May's revenge path, as May, or the Acolyte, kills many Jedi that she directly blames for her lot in life and the death of her family. One of my favorite details about the series though is when Master Soul ends up probing the mind of May and discovers just how little she knows about the Sith Master, or Darkside Master. The Sith's role in the galaxy is of the utmost secrecy at this point in time. If they reveal themselves, the entire plan of the Rule of Two will be toppled, and the Sith will no longer have a direct path to power if the Jedi are aware of their presence. The Sith's job, and what Darth Bane established, is to destroy that dream. The Sith destroyed that dream by being someone important. They became bankers, politicians, lawyers, and pinnacles of society. They destroyed the very Republic by rotting it to its core. And I think that there's a wellspring of stories to be told here in The Acolyte, and I truly hope that at some point in the story it pulls away from the perspective of the Jedi, and we get an in-depth look at the inner workings and political maneuverings of the Sith. But back to the Jedi, I would like to praise Master Soul for a brief moment. He reminds me very much of an individual like Obi-Wan Kenobi, wanting to atone for his past mistakes. Mistakes that Obi-Wan made with Anakin, and now mistakes that Master Soul has made with Osha. He's made out to be a tragic character who has a lot in his past that many believe that he has overcome, but you can clearly see the failure and the pain in his eyes. He wants to do right, not just by May, but Osha as well. In the end, I'm actually quite surprised with the quality of The Acolyte. The budget is very much on screen and everything looks spectacular. The plot of exactly what the Jedi did to wrong May and how this sowed the seeds of revenge is also an interesting plot point. However, so far, the series is moving a little slow. Hopefully things will pick up with the next episode as we encounter our first ever live action Wookiee Jedi, and the revenge plot of May and the Sith continue. The dichotomy of the light and the dark, the Jedi and the Sith, and them both being one. Different aspects of the Force. Hopefully by the end of The Acolyte, it will recontextualize what the dark side means and what it represents. A different avenue, and perhaps the Jedi will come off not quite as pure as they would have desired. Overall though, I like this introduction, I like a lot of the characters, and I'm interested to see where the story progresses. Thus far, it's a little bit by the numbers in terms of the plot, but it's just getting started and there is a ton of potential here to break into a brand new era, explore what the Jedi are like, and more importantly, what the Sith are like. But now, my friends and fellow Acolytes, I would love to hear what you think. What did you think of the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte? And as always, stay tuned here as we'll be breaking down my initial reaction and then later in the week covering brand new lore bits that we get from The Acolyte moving forward. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching the channel, and may the Force be with you always.